Do you remember the Scott Cochran situation from, how long ago has it been? I've lost all track of time. A little while ago. Scott Cochran, you remember what happened. He leaves Alabama. He's going to Georgia, and you remember what the headlines were. Scott Cochran, for those of you unfamiliar, all three of you, longtime strength and conditioning coach for Alabama, real celebrity, kind of a cult figure amongst Alabama fans, and really amongst kind of the subculture of college football fans in general. What did the aggregation crowd tell you that day? The low-hanging fruit crowd, the clicks crowd, they told you this is basically an atomic bomb being dropped on Alabama. It is catastrophic. There were even some reputable people out there that I would not classify in any of the previously mentioned categories that said the same thing. You remember what we said. We went on air the next time we had a show. We were just starting the show here at 24/7 Sports, at least. And I told you both sides are going to benefit from this. That was part instinct, and it was part me regurgitating what I had heard from people at Alabama. Outside of Alabama, it sent shockwaves. And I'm telling you, inside Alabama, it was met with a collective shrug of the shoulders. And a lot of people, maybe even including, if you're watching the video version, the head coach that you're seeing on the screen right now, Nick Saban, viewed it as an opportunity. So now we fast forward to this week. You think that not much has happened since then. Well, it hasn't on the football field, and players haven't been on campus. But Nick Saban spoke about this week. I'm going to read you a couple of quick quotes from Nick Saban, then we'll get back to it. We're talking about Ballou and Ray, the sports science tag team that they hired from Indiana. Those are names you're probably not familiar with yet. You will be. This is Nick Saban talking about the two guys he hired. They came in, we interviewed them. There was no question from a sports science standpoint, from a conditioning standpoint, they were light years in advance of what a lot of people had done in their programs for a long time, which we had done for a long, long time. Nick Saban goes on. We were already going down this path. Pause there, because I want you to really note that. There were changes coming, whether Scott Cochran stayed on board or not. We continue. We were already going down that path, so when these guys came aboard, everyone else we interviewed was pretty much like a strength coach of the past. These guys were really way advanced in terms of some of the things they did to prevent injury, some of the training programs, velocity training, explosive movement training. Just really, really excited to have them in the program. So what do we get here? Nick Saban knew he needed a new edge. You remember how they won a decade ago. It's been a little over a decade ago since he won his first championship at Alabama. That was the 2009 season. They won another one 2 years later. They won another one a year later after that. They just bludgeoned people to death. That's what they did. Their biggest edge on the rest of the sport was they were bigger and stronger and faster, but mainly bigger and stronger than everyone else. They were deeper. They were more talented, significantly more talented at any given point than whatever the second best talented roster was, but they bludgeoned you to death. I've told you a million times, I'm telling you right now, whoever's dominating at the present moment, whoever just won a championship in any given moment, right now in the ACC, for example, everyone thinks it'll be Clemson until the end of time. The sport at this level will never sit still. It's not a dead horse, guys. The sport at this level, as competitive as it is and as highly paid as these coaching staffs are, it never sits still for a long time. And that was no different than when Alabama started dominating the sport. College football didn't sit still. A lot of folks got creative. A lot of folks got imaginative. A lot of folks changed the way that they ran offenses because of Alabama. A lot of people changed their methodology and philosophy in recruiting because of Alabama. And so all of a sudden, you fast forward 6, 7 years, Alabama's still one of, if not the best programs in America, but there's an Ohio State or a Clemson, and you get on the field with them any given year, there's not this massive gulf in talent. There's not this massive gulf in physicality between Alabama and those teams. Nick Saban has seen that for a while. You and I have seen it for a while. He's seen it for a while. Then they got a quarterback out of Hawaii by the name of Tua Tagovailoa, and they started to change a little bit about their identity. But what was missing was the physical edge. And we've seen that for a few years now with Alabama. So what I can tell you, what I told you a couple of months ago or a month ago, whenever this happened, and I'm going to reiterate now, they knew changes were needed. They didn't know exactly what the changes needed to be. They broke ground on that Sports Science Center a little while ago. That's nearing completion. I think it is complete now. But Nick Saban was in a boat where he was looking around and he knew we got way too many injuries. I mean, just to be blunt, if Alabama's roster is healthy over the last 2 years, they're the best team in America the last 2 years. But yet they weren't. Nowhere close. And you can say injury is a part of the game, and it is. Maybe not quite to the extent that Alabama had. So here's what I can tell you, not from just my observation, talking to people close to Alabama, including inside the program in some cases, they saw their injury situation as being a lot more than just freakish or flukish. They thought that they were partially to blame. What they couldn't fully know is where they were to blame. You can watch the injuries stacking up, and you can watch the bodies on the injury reserve list stacking up, and you can say, wow, that's a ton of foot injuries, isn't it? What caused it? I don't know. We got to figure it out, though. So they think now you get a tag team that is a lot more advanced sports scientifically than maybe the previous guy, and you think you have an edge back. That's the next edge Nick Saban thinks that he can create for them there. They're going to be talented. They're always going to recruit very well. That's the next edge they want. It's normal to think about the here and now. You watch games on Saturday. I watch games on Saturday. And you may think that because this team is consistently ranked in the top 4, top 5, it's crazy to talk about fundamentally overturning a core tenet, that being the strength and conditioning aspect of the program. The reason why you watched them, even when they were winning championships, the reason why you have watched them for so long win, and you've watched Nick Saban look like he was getting a parking ticket during the postgame celebration when confetti is falling, is because once guys like him have the result, they're done with it. There's not a whole lot of celebration. There's not anything like that. But the main reason is because it's the normal person thinking, this is what's happening right now. Let's celebrate it. All he's concerned about is what will happen. What is happening can't be changed. It's happening already. I mean, you are perfectly designed. Your organization is perfectly designed for the results you're getting right now. Well, he's worried about the future. And so while you're sitting there watching him maybe still win a championship in 2017, he's saying, boy, this Georgia team took us to the limit. In a lot of ways, we were really lucky to escape this thing with a win. And that's another championship in my trophy case. How much longer are we going to be getting by on this? Because that team over there is not as talented as my roster right now, and yet they pushed me around in the first half. We were shut out going into the locker room, and I made a change at quarterback. And so while you're celebrating in 2017, he realizes we don't have the physical edge we used to have on teams. And because a lot more are recruiting on par with us, we're not going to have it. Where is our next edge? Sports science is our next edge. And now, mark my words, come this time next year, this time the year after that, people are going to look back in Athens, Georgia, and they're going to say, man, I'm really glad we got Scott Cochran. People at Alabama are going to look around and really not remember the Scott Cochran era all that much because they'll be more than happy with what they have with the new duo from Indiana. It's not a zero-sum game. This is not a football game. This is a personnel move, and in this case, multiple personnel moves. You could have multiple winners, and I think you got multiple winners here with Georgia and Alabama.